All right, season 1, episode 3 of Miss Marvel. We're talking about the Djinn. What is the Djinn on Miss Marvel? Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Circle Club. I am here with our lovely expert Corey of What's Next. Make sure you go check his stuff out and follow on. Make sure you subscribe. We make new content every single week. Corey, what is the Djinn on Miss Marvel here, my friend?
Yeah, man. I'm gonna continue to stick to my theory here that I laid down before. I feel like the avenue that we're just noticing with Marvel is they're adding these new entities, right? We talked about it in Moonlight with the avatars, and I think they're continuing a trend like this. And I think they're doing that because of that whole Inhumans mistake that they made before, right? I think it's
Mm,
hard for you to just completely come up with these new races. So I think the way they
yep.
build on our theory too, as well with the diversity, is having
Yep.
these different avenues that people can get powers from, right? So I think there may be some origin behind like the Kree inhuman aspect, like we talked about, right? They might just be taking
Mm-hmm.
a different alternative on this. But when they started talking about how much longer they live than the normal human being, right? And being
Yep.
trapped in this dimension, I think that's what kind of like tiptoes inside what I was talking about, but not fully, because when they start talking about a different dimension,
Right.
it's bringing up a whole different aspect, right? I think we've talked about different
Yes.
universes so far in the multiverse, but we really haven't talked about different dimensions, and now that's coming back more into quantum realm territory, right?
Yep.
Ant-Man, things like that. So I think we're diving a little bit closer to Kang area as well. So I think they're starting to connect a lot of dots here. We don't know the full picture and detail of where the Djinn truthfully come from on the background, but I
Yep.
see a lot of weaving there with a lot of other properties that they've had.
So what I've found, just doing my own little dig in here, this is pretty much a summary to paint a nice picture. Is so right now we think Kamala is not an Inhuman, like her character in the comic book. She's a Djinn, and in the past, Kamran's mother explains that they're also called clandestines, and they have like a couple other names that they're called and stuff. And I'm curious when she said that little line, like we're called other names. I'm like, what is that going to be? Is that going to sort of like relate to the Inhumans or Kree
Mm,
or whatever? And so we know that they're from this different dimension, the Nord dimension or whatever, and they were exiled and they need to get their way back home, right? And so it turns out that Kamala's great grandmother, who she sort of found a way for them to get back,
mhm.
and it was these bangles, right? And so the bangles are this sort of like relic to get the Djinn back home and return to their full power. And as of right now, as you said, the only power that they sort of have is this slow aging process. Now, what kind of makes my Marvel, clue trigger here is if Kamala's a Djinn and her great grandmother was, that would lead you to believe that the mother was, that the grandmother was, and yet we see that they still are aging. So I sort of don't believe this woman. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to not fully believe where she's coming from, and I think there's things that we'll get into a little bit later on about how they're pacing this as well that I
Yeah.
want to get into, but you can't really take her word fully because she went from this nice individual in the beginning of the episode to
Mm-hmm.
clearly not a good individual at the end, right? So you got to take it with a grain of salt. She obviously is biased in the scenario. I think we're gonna find out a lot next episode about it, like we talked
Mm-hmm.
about, and we'll get into later in this. The pacing's
Go
been
ahead.
pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So I think they're gonna answer that right off the bat. I think there's a reason the cliffhanger that was left there was for her to come back to go see her nana, right?
Yeah.
And I think they're gonna rip right into it right at the start of the next episode and give us all the answers we're
So
really looking for.
so let's talk about that then, the pacing, right? Like, I mean, you and I are both we're really high on this series, really enjoying it so far. I 100% agree with you. Like, it seems that like every week we're making these videos, we have some questions, we're wondering something, and then in the first like 2-3 minutes, boom, they answer it, right? And
Mm.
there's also this really nice thing where it feels like it's in the larger Marvel universe. However, it's not like introducing other people. It's not taking away from Kamala's story. And I think, like, we talk about diversity, right? You want to see diversity. You don't want it to be forced. And I think, like, a little bit of an issue with Captain Marvel, ironically, was it almost felt like it was written by, like, male writers or something, trying to, like, promote girl power, but, like, not really giving her, like, the true sort of, like, love that she probably should have been displayed with. And I think that what they've done with Miss Marvel is completely the opposite, where it's naturally showing her culture, naturally showing her family, right? Like her interests, her friends, all these different sort of like contradictions that she has to deal with. And so, yeah, I do think next episode that this question of what is the Djinn and like the backstory and all that is really going to be probably, if it's not answered this next episode, it will be the one after. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's definitely gonna get answered in the next episode. This is something like you were just kind of alluding to. I'm loving about this show. They're not waiting around. They're kind of ripping right into it. And I think it's an advantage for a character like Kamala Khan, right? Like that might have not. And we talked about it. We're like, I know I'm gonna watch it regardless, but I wasn't really having high expectations. I wasn't really overhyped about it. I knew it was coming. I was gonna watch it, and the show has pleasantly surprised me with not only like the acting, the acting that has been done for Kamala Khan, but how it's been written, kind of the background characters, the story itself, how they're introducing. The answers to the questions, right? Like it's moving at a nice pace, and that's what I want, and that's what I'm enjoying about it. And the next question for me is, okay, what is this background? Like I want to know more about this, and I think if they continue where they're at, we're gonna know by next week, and we're gonna have another question, and probably after that, it's gonna get answered right off the bat, right? The thing I'm more interested in though is really finding out what the source of the power is, right? Like we've understood that it's inside of her, right? This band kind of unlocks it. This lady is telling Kamala that she's kind of like them, right? And they're using items as well, but they clearly are not on the level that Kamala's on. So I want to understand what this feud is between them, how bad these individuals really are, but understand the true origin and capabilities of Kamala's power. But to your point, I think it does come from a lineage at the end of the day. And maybe that bracelet enhanced it at some point, and that's why it kind of, it's like almost like the Green Lantern, right? Like the ring enhances that powers.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I'm very interested to see what happens next week. Make sure you guys subscribe. Comment below what you guys think of the Djinn, the origin of it, where it's coming from. How are you feeling so far about Miss Marvel? Are you loving it? What don't you like? And yeah, make sure you subscribe and check out Corey's channel, What's Next TCC, because he's making new Marvel stuff all the time, especially on TikTok. That's really when you want to check him out. And yeah, let us know what you guys think.